Hi, I'm John, one of the creators of LASR. LASR stands for Laser Activated Shot Reporter, and it's an app that allows you to get instant feedback on your shot placement and time to enhance your dry fire practice. LASR works with any phone, tablet, or computer and utilizes webcams or built-in cameras to watch your targets. LASR also works with any laser trainer, such as laser inserts for your real firearm or training pistols.
Go!
You can use nearly anything as a target, including picture frames, printouts, or targets from the live range. And you can use as many targets as you want.
Left. Right.
LASR provides feedback on where you hit
Miss.
and how fast you were. It also offers a wide variety of features and modes, with more being added with regular updates and improvements.
Correct.
LASR is extremely flexible, allowing you to practice how you want, when you want, where you want. Use it to stay sharp between range sessions, and use it to practice things you can't do at the range. But hey, you don't have to take my word for it. There's already thousands of shooters just like you using LASR to get more value and fun from their dry fire practice.
Shooter ready. Stand by. Reload. Shooter ready. Stand by. Threat.
Chest. Circle.
Fire.
LASR networking allows you to connect multiple devices together to provide synchronized controls and feedback. This can be used for multi-directional or multi-room shooting, such as complex courses of fire or shoot houses. LASR networking is simple to set up and easy to use, and it works on any device.
Miss.
Use it to practice for the next match, or turn your house into a multi-room training scenario. The possibilities are limitless.
qualifying having some pretty good speed, but we were honestly really, really good. Definitely a top 5 car. The 97 was handling really well. I'm hoping for a really good run. I feel like we have a car that can run up front all today, and if we just continue to make the right adjustments and make the right moves, I think we'll have a good shot of ending up front.
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
Good.
It's been a couple of weeks since NRA, and I think it's a couple of weeks since we've actually done one of these things.
Yeah, it's definitely been a while.
And guess who? Let's see. Is it to my other side? First time we have producer Kathy on there. She was at the shows. The only one we're missing right now is, I guess, Bridget, who is doing some of the show work as well. So this time it's the three of us online. So how y'all? Everybody doing okay, Sam? I know you guys had some pretty crazy hail where you're at.
Yeah. It was a fun fluke storm of softball-sized hail raining down on us. I was waiting for the fireballs to go right behind it,
Now I saw you guys. I mean, you showed me a picture of one of those hailstones. I don't have it on to shoot. I should have pulled that off on my phone. But just tell me, how big was that hailstone? I saw a picture of a hand.
Yeah. So I mean, it would cover the vast. I mean, easily like
Almost like that, you'd say?
This whole area, yeah, a little bit smaller. I mean, and that was after impact. I was really hoping I wasn't going to take a direct hit on one of the cars which the windshield of one of my cars definitely took 2 of them. So,
well, I thought you were going to go out there with your outfielders mitt and play baseball or something like that.
Oh yeah. No, if I would have missed, that's a deadly mistake.
Okay, well, outfield error. We won't put that. So, what I wanted to do. It's been a while, and there's a couple of things we ran into out in the NRA convention. Besides protesters, we ran into a lot of good options for training, and I thought it might be good to share some of that stuff here on near the closer to the end of the live stream, to show people the different options of hardware that actually works with laser. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, good deal. Now, there are a couple of things. I know I'm kind of infamous for changing things at the last minute. I'm not going to do that, but I did change a few things on the website. And I wanted to show folks a couple of things that we have there. Our developers were working on a few things probably over the last few weeks, maybe the last few months. And there's a few new plugins. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to pull up the website. Let me see if I can do it here without blowing up the program. I'm going to share my desktop and just show a few new things here that we have available. Let's do this. Tell me if you guys see this okay. Okay. So on our website, obviously everybody recognizes the landing page. We're running a Father's Day special. We'll touch on that. If you go to shop, and these are predominantly for Laser X, we have a couple of new plugins here. One is for scholastic action shooting. We've had people order the poster, this poster here, but now we have target templates that actually go with that. So in some cases, you can have the computer do machine learning and identify targets, and we'll show some of that possibly later on here. Or you can literally do the target template where you drag it across the screen and identify, let's say, exclamation, or you can actually identify M or V so that you don't have to spend time cleaning it up, or you can just quickly do a setup, drag and drop, and you're up and running. And that's kind of what we have for a target templates plugin. It's similar to some other stuff we have for IPSC and IDPA, correct, Sam, or Bullseye?
Yeah, I mean, like some of the target templates that are in there under that target templates and scoring plugin, where it's we'll draw that stuff up. Yeah.
Now, one of the catches, and this is the thing we want to make sure is, before you can use any of these new plugins that we have, and these are smaller plugins, you got to have the Laser X template and scoring plugin. That's the bigger kit that gives you all the other things like the popper targets, the bullseye targets, and that's because there's scoring involved. So, for example, on the next one, I'll show one of the other plugins we have here. There's a BT5 target. It's pretty popular. In fact, some of our customers are using the BT5 target. We call it the police template target, but other departments use it. The reason is, in those targets, whether it's scholastic action shooting or the BT5 target, there are some zones in here, and you can score them differently. So, for example, if the goal is to do 2 shots to the chest zone and 1 to the head, you'll only be able to do the scoring and the and the number of shots per zone if you have the target templates plugin. So what I mean by that is these are the plugins for Laser X, and there's a primary one. This is the one, the templates and scoring plugin that you have to get first, and these become additional plugins that you add, and the targets will show up on your dropdown.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And then another one I just want to show this. A lot of folks were saying, hey, Ben, or hey, Laser, we want to be able to export our results. Can we do that? Prior to that, folks were doing screenshots. And the problem is, you have a huge, string of fire, several rows. You're not going to get everything. So what we do now is with the plugin, you can actually do an export of the results. It'll give a timestamp of when the results were exported. So if someone wants to do like a date to know when that happened, they can have the timestamp there, and it will show you all the shots, whether it's misses, reloads, and malfunctions. It'll give you a record of it, and you can keep that in your system. It downloads locally to you. We never see it. So that's a file that downloads as a CSV file locally to you there on your local computer. So that's what the Laser X Exports plugin does. Okay. And those are 3 of the new plugins. And again, the last one I wanted to share with you guys is something we're doing with one of the youth shooting clubs up in Pennsylvania. Gentlemen, a lot of folks have heard of him, Bill Rogers. He has a shooting school in Georgia. He has been more than willing to work with the club that we're working with in Pennsylvania to do a shooting school as a prize, a shooting class as a prize. What it is you'll shoot his challenge. You register for $25 online. The proceeds all go towards youth shooting sports for the clubs up in the Pennsylvania area. And it's, we're doing it along with the NRA, Freedom Foundation, and Rogers Shooting School. What you do is you register. You'll download the waiver that's on there. Of course, we want to do a waiver because this is going to be all live fire. You're actually shooting live ammo, and it'll give you the course of fire that you need to record and submit. And at the end of the competition, or at the end of the challenge, September 1st, 2022, they will announce who the winner is with regards to the shooting results. So that's something that's on our website. If you go there, it's actually the Bill Rogers Shooting Challenge, and you would get there to going on our website and go /Rogers-Shooting-Challenge. That's something you'll see here, and you can see Rogers Shooting School, the NRA Foundation, and when you click on here, boom, it'll take you to the page that we were looking at earlier, where you can fill out the pay the registration fee for the challenge, and you'll download the waiver that you need to submit, and also give you the rules and the course of fire that you have to set up. But this is, again, live fire. So I just want to make sure that now it's not something to do with Laser, but Laser will help you do well in the live fire. So that's something I want to throw out there. You going to do something like that, Sam, you think?
My life's pretty busy right now.
I'll take a look at doing it. I have to find a range close by that doesn't take, the value of a box of ammo or boxes of ammo to get out to these days. That's pretty tough.
Yeah.
So that's just something I wanted to pop up there. That's the new stuff that we have on our website, a couple of plugins, and also this Bill Rogers Shooting Challenge that we have. But what I figured also, we have one more thing. And NRA, remember how we're running that special, $100 off for Laser Classic and Laser X? We're doing a different special right now for Father's Day, and it's just around the corner. And what's cool about this is it's electronic, guys. It's software, so you don't have to have anything shipped to you. And if you forget about Dad, you can quickly surprise him and say, oh, yeah, Dad, look, I got this set up for you. You go to our website. There's a splash page for you, and we'll go there real quick again one more time. If you go to our website at laserapp.com, you'll see a splash page come up, or what I say, a light box come up, and we're running 2 specials on Laser X under the Tactics version or Laser Classic. You'll see here with the code DADS2022, you can get $70 off Laser X, and you'll get the target template and scoring plugin that we talked about. Or if you want Laser Classic, do Fathers 2022, you'll get Laser Classic for $70 off, but you'll also get the equivalent of the target template scoring plugin for Classic. That's something we're doing for Father's Day.
And I think it is just important to note for some clarification, and I know you have it right there, but that for Laser X to get that $70 off, and Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, but that is for the one-time purchase. So if you're looking at just being a subscriber, this doesn't really necessarily directly apply to that. Laser Tac TX is a one-time purchase, and so trying to finagle, deep discounts on a subscription is a little bit different.
A little
So
tougher, right? And some of the limitations of our pages, we can't mix subscriptions with physical downloads or licenses. So it's one or the other. But definitely, the sale is going on. It's different from the NRA one, but those NRA codes, if you still have them, hint hint, I think they still work. Or you can do the Father's Day one. If you forget, Dad, don't worry. Again, it's software, so it'll be there instantly. So there's a little out for you there if you forgot. All right. So, Sam, we were at the NRA convention, and I'm going to just show a quick, Kath, what do you think? Quick second clip of the video. I'm going to pop it up here in a second. Let me get it up and running. It was pretty exciting. A lot of folks came out. And Sam, did you recognize anything about the clientele themselves or the people that stopped by?
I mean, there seemed to be, I mean, it was definitely busy, but it's definitely, a pretty good group of people that we always run into, very like-minded individuals, and it's a lot of familiar faces, after doing shows for so long. I remember you from 3 years ago,
You've been to a lot more shows than I have, as a exhibitor, I guess, so that people recognize you probably a lot more.
Yeah, certainly. Like, I think the distinguished markings of tattoos. It kind of, people would be like, "Oh, are you guy in the video? Does that guy have a lot of tattoos?" No, then it wasn't me.
No. Producer Kathy, she should show you all the tattoos that she has, all the dragon tattoos and the butterflies and the lizards, and then that skull that she has on her back. She has one on her back like that. No,
nice.
But yeah. I'm gonna do a quick. We'll just do like maybe 30 seconds of it just to see. I don't know, guys. If you didn't make it to Houston this year, I believe the next one is going to be in Indianapolis. So it'll be north of us. We're in Plano, Dallas, Texas, and Nebraska. So it's kind of Houston was close by. But let's. I'm going to pop this up real quick, and I'm just do a quick video and let you guys see what it was like. Oh, who's that savvy looking guy?
Yeah, you had the scruff going on there.
Sam, you look pretty intense there.
I'm usually always pretty
There you
intense.
go. There you go. There's another man. Sam, did you pay the camera guy to do this?
Nope. I think you did. Wasn't that Bridget?
It was Bridget. That's why she's not in the shots. What you'll notice, I know there's a lot of talking going on in the background. You'll notice we got a good mix of even young shooters come out. We have the Scholastic action shooting poster hanging on the wall. I mean, it was good for adults to see, and adults to get a feel of it, because not everybody has fired before. Some of them were curious about dry fire, but a lot of young folks came out there. And in fact, I think some of the folks that came out and saw the Scholastic action shooting poster went over to their booth, because SASP was there at NRA, and actually became a member and joined one of the local clubs. At least that's what I heard from some of the guys out there.
Oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I noticed we had a lot more. That was something that was a little bit different this time. There was a lot more competitive or student shooters involved in those programs that were at this one versus a lot of the other ones we'd done in the past.
Oh, really? Okay. That's good. That's interesting. I wonder if the demographic or the dynamic is changing, where a lot more young folks who can't do football, baseball, soccer, or even band, at least they have a competitive sport or competition or team event they can do. So yeah. So I'm just going to end it. I'm going to run this one out here. I mean, you can see it was pretty busy. Quite a few people coming around on all 3 days. And I would have to say, not to badmouth any other shows, but this almost was as busy on day one, or maybe by day one, day two, as SHOT Show was. That's at least what it felt like for a while.
Yeah, I definitely was way more worn out after 3 days of this show than all week at SHOT.
It's because people weren't feeding you. I think that's probably what was happening.
Nah. I eat the same way.
Oh, you eat the same way either way. Okay. Well, that's something I thought it might be a good thing to show folks who didn't make it to NRA. Guys, if you can make it, it's really a great way to talk with folks in the community. And things, I think, have changed just slightly. Not talking about the protesters. They're always there. They never change. In fact, they probably wear the same smelly clothes. But and they all have the same posters. But I think the demographic and the interest of people have changed as more and more people are joining. What, 5 million in 2022 or 2020, 5 million new gun owners in 2020, and almost that many in 2021. So the landscape is changing, and a lot more people are discovering or taking advantage of their Second Amendment right.
Yeah.
So let me see here. What do you think about showing some of those training aids, Sam?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's so many out there, and that's, with our software being non-proprietary, meaning that you don't have to have a special one, or and that's kind of the big thing, is a lot of people go, well, what do I need with it? Well,
Yep.
You want the software and then something to shoot at, and that can be anything, because we don't require you to have special targets, but then you need something that emits a laser as a shot. And so sometimes that's kind of hard to describe to people when, I mean, we have cert pistols and things like that, but showing all the different options that are out there, then it allows people to say, oh, okay, there is options, and I can make this work with what I need it to,
Gotcha. Yeah, no, and I think that's a good way to look at it, because a lot of folks, one of the questions we got, or a lot of the most popular questions we got, is, well, what do I need? What do I get for the system, right? What do I get here, and what do I shoot with? So I'm going to switch out the camera. You see this little black cube there, and I'm trying to see how we get the angles correctly. I'm going to click you off for a second, Kath, and let's see how this goes. Let's see if we could do this, and I'll bring Kathy back in. Oh, she's always the predominant one. How do we do that? I'm going to turn you down for a second, okay? So, Sam, what we have here, and you've probably seen this before. I'm going to crank up some of the lights in this room. You recognize this box. You actually created this in the shop, right?
I did. Yeah. Yes. It's made out of black licorice. No, I'm just kidding. Don't try to eat it. You'll break teeth.
Okay. So that's a good one. One of the things that people ask is, what do I train with, right? I mean, they'll say, what do I need to or work with laser or dry fire? The most basic thing, Sam, we tell people to do is take a look at what?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going very, very basic, use a cartridge insert, like what you see right there on the screen. It's just an insert that goes into your own firearm. You certainly want to make sure everything's clear and remove all live fire before even attempting to use it. But then it just sits into the chamber of your gun, and when the firing pin strikes the back of it, it's going to emit a laser rather than a piece of lead. I don't know if there you go. So, yeah, so the firing pin's just going to strike the back of it. The one thing I do, tell people, and I'm sure we've brought it on before, is that in the sense, like a Glock, you're going to have to rack the slide between each shot, because nothing is actuating the firing pin to reset. So, but what you do is you're going to, drop the mag, rack the slide to the rear, and make sure everything's clear. Last thing you want is to send a piece of lead through a wall. So then you just insert it into the chamber there and let the slide run forward.
Right. And sometimes it gets stuck, right? I mean, sometimes it doesn't seat all the way. So I've told people at the shows, maybe a little drop of CLP on the rubber bushings, because if you'll notice, there's some rubber rings on the edge. I wouldn't recommend licking it. Some people said, oh, I just lick it. No, don't lick it. I put a little bit of CLP on there, to put it in the chamber. And yeah, you're right. Just let the slide go home. In fact, I just let it ride home that way.
Yeah. And it's not going to do anything.
And I think to Sam's point, I mean, you'll see the laser, but every time you shoot, you've got to rack the slide enough to load the striker again. You do get the advantage of what? Your own trigger, your own firearm. But if you're shooting for time, that's always the challenge, right? Because this is going to add, on Laser X, if you're shooting for time and transitioning targets, it's going to be a lot tougher to do.
Sure. Well, and I mean, and so there's upsides and downsides to each. So like, me, I shoot Glocks, like what you have right there. And so I like using them for that first shot off the draw, just getting my times down to clear garment and make sure I have good sight picture and everything when I take that first shot. If I'm looking at a multi-target engagement, then I'm not necessarily going to go down that route, because you're going to start racking in between slides. Yeah. And I haven't seen it happen yet, but I have heard several people going, yeah, but then you can get into the habit of hitting that slide every time you pull the trigger, which, again, I haven't seen it happen yet, but I still could see, if you get in the habit of doing that all the time, it could potentially pose something that's not fun when you're shooting live rounds. The other thing with those is going to be, if you have something that's like double single or double strike capability, so like a CZ75, or I think it's like the Taurus G3 has a unique capability where yeah, you can have that double strike capability, and then you can just pull the trigger all day. It'll be in double, but you're still going to be able to just keep pulling the trigger.
Correct. I
You
mean,
know,
like for example, this Beretta, it has that double action. And again, all these guns are been cleared and unloaded. So just to make sure, I know people get a little
Yeah.
antsy about that. I'm the same way. The devil's bullet will always show up at the last minute when you don't expect
Yep.
it. But if we did that, again, the double action, you don't have to rack the slide every single time, but you will be dealing with that heavy trigger pull to the rear every single time. But that's one way to do it without having to rack the slide, is if you have a double action or a second strike.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and like I said, if you're adamant about using your own firearm, I completely get it. There's certain things on my Glocks that I have that you're not going to find on, dedicated training aids. I've got accelerator cuts in the slide. I've got a special stippling on there, and I've got finger grooves cut off and everything. So there's a lot on there that, is unique to my gun. But again, while I like having those things and I have my gun set up the way I want it, it's still, having a cert pistol or things like that. The fundamentals are still there. So,
and I think a lot of folks will tell you the most important shot is the first shot after you draw it from the holster. So I think this one with a laser cartridge, Sam, how much are these typically run? We sell them for $65 in our store, and it's not very expensive to get your basic training in there with a trigger press to the rear. You get to use your own gun, and that's the nice thing about it, because ultimately that's what you're going to be carrying every day. And the cost of entry, the barrier to entry, $65. Plus, you can use our software as well, because it's a visible laser, and it's something that you can get going without a lot of money sunk into your training. You get training. You're not. You don't have the excuse of saying it's too expensive. That's what I'm trying to get at. But that's one of them. So, Sam, that's the laser cartridge, and I'm gonna drop the laser cartridge. So typically, when you take it out there, I'll show you a different kit. There, you can take the laser cartridge out with a push of the pencil, and it drops out, and then you're safe, and you're good. Again, there's nothing in there. We'll just drop the hammer or drop the striker, and we're done there. So I'm going to move these guns aside, and we'll move the laser cartridge to the side for now. But that's one of the things. Now, again, this laser cartridge we were looking at, you had to rack it every single time, right? That's the one thing about these laser cartridges.
Yep.
So let me put those aside. Go ahead.
I wasn't. Nope. I was just agreeing with you. Yep. Those are ones that, should you not have double strike capability, you'll have to rack it every time.
Now, the next one it's a new item on the market. They've been producing sim guns, or in fact, their website, I believe, is simgun.com. They've been producing this for different companies for ages, I believe. They predate us, and I think they predate a lot of the other companies. This one is the LTP, or laser training pistol. I don't think it's on the market yet, but it is somewhere between, again, it's not an actual firearm, but we want to treat it the same way. We keep our finger out of the magazine, not magazine, but out of the trigger well until we're ready to shoot, but we treat it exactly like a real firearm. The catch is LTP has a trigger that resets on its own. You don't have to rack the slide. So it's a next step in your training. This one is an infrared laser, so you're not going to see it unless you had an infrared camera. But what LTP is looking at doing is putting these on the market. Again, I don't know what they're going to run, but these are coming out, I think, probably before a USCCA. And the goal is to provide a slide that has infrared and also the visible laser. So it's like the laser cartridge that you're seeing here that we had before. So you see the red dot or the red laser, but then with a quick change of the slide, you disconnect it, put the new one on, and now you have an infrared laser. And Sam, you want to tell folks why infrared lasers are also critical in your training at some point?
Yeah. So the big thing is, I mean, there's a lot of disciplined shooters out there. So I won't necessarily say that this covers every single shooter that's out there, but by and large, and I'll admit that I even do it too, when you have a training aid that has a visible laser on it, one of the issues you will run into after a while, if you don't really focus on your discipline of sight picture, is that you'll just start chasing the laser. So you'll just go, yeah, I know this is where it's going to hit because I've shot it 100 times and I know in relation to where that's going to hit. And you just start basically point shooting rather than using your sights. So the IR option, provides that it takes, I guess, removes that temptation to chase the laser, and then you can just really focus on your fundamentals of sight, picture, and things like that.
Right. Because I even noticed that myself when we're doing some of the challenges in our booth or in the shows, I find myself drawing, but I am point shooting. I'm not looking at it. And in some cases, point shooting is correct. But if you're trying to develop your fundamentals, you always want to get that sight picture, sight alignment using your actual sights, as opposed to just, oh, where did that red dot go? Because that red dot's not going to be there when you're putting rounds down range. You're really going to have to depend on your sight picture, sight alignment in your trigger.
Yep. And everybody has, like you said, everybody kind of has their own theories, and there's a time and a place for point shooting. But at the same time too, you don't necessarily want to establish bad habits either in the event that you get into a situation where you're going to have to use your sights. It's kind of like knowing how to drive a stick shift. You may never have to drive one, but if knowing how to do it in the event you need it, I mean, you definitely want that in your repertoire. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because you never know, you might run into it still, or now you'll have self-driving cars, so you want to know how to use your iPhone while you're driving, I guess.
Oh,
just a joke. I don't. Just a joke. Don't use your iPhone when you're driving. Put it that way. But Sam, you recognize this bag?
Oh yeah. Those are good friends over at Dryfire, man.
Absolutely. And they were, ironically, they were just on the other side of the aisle, actually on the other side of the wall from us, and it's Dryfire Mag. And I think a lot of folks know their magazine. In fact, I'm going to open this up. Do you want to say anything? While I'm zipping this open.
Oh,
I think they might recognize the magazine.
Yep, that orange base plate, signature trademark.
Right. So a lot of folks are probably familiar with this. I mean, they do it, and I've seen their commercials. I think it's a pretty good product. They upped the game though. So before, I think you put it in there, and you're working on your trigger press, and you can put a dime or a little cartridge or snap cap on top of your muzzle and pull it back to make sure you're not jerking the trigger or moving a lot. They've upped the game here. And Sam, you want to tell them about that? I'm gonna get the firearm ready here.
Yeah. So what they did was they started incorporating a cartridge insert that works in conjunction with that mag. And I'm not going to necessarily go into all the specifics of how that actually works, but the cartridge is going to go into your firearm in the chamber. So we've got a cleared out gun there. It's going to slide in there. You're going to push it all the way in, make sure it's fully seated in there. And then you're going to go ahead and let the slide go forward. And then you're going to take the mag and insert it all the way in, into the firearm there.
And they even say it might be sometimes.
Right? Yeah, you're going to have to, it might need a little encouragement getting in there, and that's fine, but then that means it's not coming out either. And then what it allows you to do is you can go ahead and pull the trigger, and then you'll hear that click was your reset. So you'll be able to keep pulling a trigger on a Glock and use laser training with your Glock and have multiple engaged targets or multi-string shot strings of fire.
You don't have, unlike these other cartridges, we have to, it's kind of a step up from these cartridges. You used to have to rack the slide every single time. Here with Dryfire Gun Mag, and unfortunately I played with this too much that I let the batteries run down. But with them, you not only have their magazine now, there's a little software app that loads up on your phone and you can tune the laser, but you now have a laser cartridge. So you're using your own gun, you're using your actual trigger, and you can use laser X or laser classic to do the dry fire, so you can see where your shots are actually landing as you pull the trigger. And you can do your transitions, you can do time, because why? You're not having to rack the slide. You actually have the benefit, and this is I won't say magic, this is the kung fu of Dryfire Mag's products, is you actually get to use your own trigger, and you get that repeated ability to pull the trigger without having to rack it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Ben. No, go ahead.
I'm going to put it down.
I was just going to say, right now, Dryfire Mag is the only place that you're going to be able to see those, as far as I know. We do not have them on our website right now. That's not something that we are currently selling, but definitely go check out Dryfire Mag.
Right. And it's a great product because not because they're good friends of ours, but also it just allows you to, one, if you're concerned about having to buy, let's say, even the LTP, because that's a product you have to buy, This is, you have your own firearm, so you're already in there. You're just buying the kit to do the training. So it's kind of the best of both worlds between a laser cartridge where you have to rack and having a laser training pistol where the trigger actually resets on its own.
Yep.
Yeah. And great stuff. I mean, in fact, I believe at NRA, they ran out. They brought the product there. They debuted it at the NRA, and they actually ran out. So I'm going to knock out the cartridge here, and this is how they do it. They actually provide you a pusher stick here. You're able to take it out there. It runs on a couple of I would say hearing aid batteries. Is that right, Sam?
Yeah, they're close to. I don't know if they're exactly LR626 batteries, but they're very close. Another thing I'd like to mention, just since you're seeing it right now, when that case, Ben, with that case open, that plug-in right there, that does not come with the mag. The wall plug right there. That's not something that's native to the mag itself. That's just one that we had laying around. It comes with I believe it's a USB-C to USB cable, so you can plug it into any adapter, wall adapter for a USB hub. But I just wanted to make sure that way people weren't like, well, your kit had it and it's not when mine came in. So that way Dryfire mag's not like, guys, come on. Definitely don't want to say that, but
yeah, this is Sam's kit, not Dryfire mag. Sam actually runs the lab or does the testing of products that come in. So he actually, I forgot to ship it. Ship it back to him after the NRA convention because I liked it so much. I actually want to try it out. So this is Dryfire mag, good stuff. And if you notice, the link is a little different. It's a bit.ly link. So if you're interested in this product, go there and it'll take you to their page. My understanding is right now they only have it for the Glock 17 and 19 frames, but they're working on others. I don't know the order or what they have coming up next, but there's SIGs, there's M&Ps, but right now it's for only the Glock 17 and 19 frame. Is that right, Sam? Double stack?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. So
okay. Now I want to show something that we've had these guys on our sites a lot, and you'll see them in a lot of training videos. You'll see law enforcement, you'll see military. People know instinctively when they see this, I think they know that, oh, I know what that is. In fact, the company is Next Level Training, right, Sam?
Yep. Yeah.
And every time someone asks me, do you know CERT? I have to decode it and say, oh, they're asking about Next Level Training, because CERT's the product. It's the shot indicating resetting trigger. But the company is Next Level Training. And Mike and Britt and the gang, Janae and Tina, great guys up there. Luke, I mean, they were at the show. Unfortunately, this time around, they were as far away as possible from us as you could be on the opposite end of the convention center. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Almost as far as you could possibly be, unless we were in corners.
There you go.
It was, it was a long jaunt.
I wonder if they planned it that way, or if NRA did that to keep chemical A and chemical B away from each other. I don't know. But no, always good guys. Now, I want to say this is the de facto standard when it comes to training laser training pistols. They've been around a long time. They're unique in that you can drop the magazine. You saw one of the other ones, you could drop the magazine. This is actually weighted. So Sam, they can't feel it, but I think they know if you tell them this is the weight of a fully loaded Glock 17. Would you say, is that correct?
Yeah. Is that the metal slide? It's kind of hard for me to see it, but
it is.
Metal
it is the metal slide. And let me see if I can find the polymer slide. We sell these on our site, but let me pull one with a polymer slide. And again, we're still treating these like real weapons. I mean, we keep our finger on the trigger wheel. So here's the one with the polymer slide. It's a little less expensive, and it weighs what? How many ounces lighter than the fully loaded one?
4 ounces.
4 ounces. Okay. But you still get the reps in. I mean, so the nice thing about the shirts is they do have a take-up laser and a shot laser. But with our software, we usually, when we ship them out, because we sell them from our site, Sam and I will usually turn off the take-up laser so that you're only getting the shot laser, and that's the one that tells you where the shot would have went when you pull the trigger, and and the software spots your target. Sorry, spots the shot. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that take-up laser, I mean, it's a good tool. It is. It just doesn't, unless you want 2 shots recorded for every single trigger pull you take with our software. That's why we always turn it off. But a lot of instructors, if they're not using our software and they're just working on like trigger discipline with their students, that's a good option, because they can catch if somebody's getting trigger happy, fresh out of the holster and flagging somebody. And so that's a good thing. It's just, when it comes to using it with our software, you're going to get double shots if you do that. So
And you know what's nice about this too, Sam? And it comes to mind because I saw Maj Toure in Black Guns Matter. He's going into the cities, teaching people how to properly work with firearms or relate to firearms or train with them. And this is awesome because while it does, and again, this gun is, I always like to check it. My time in the military, I always like to check it. It's safe. While it looks and feels like the real gun, again, this is a Glock 19X. You don't have any chance of getting ammo in here. There's no way you can do that. You have a magazine that feels like a fully loaded one, but when you see the SIRT pistol, you know it's not a real gun, and you don't have to worry about having ammo laying around or even if someone pulls a trigger, accidentally discharging around. Whereas with some of these other ones, you might have that little concern like, okay, is it truly safe? Even though you have a cartridge in the chamber, there's no way to get around in there. You still never really know. But with the SIRT pistols, it's almost, I don't want to say a fail-safe because ultimately this and the user is the fail-safe. But these are excellent ways for instructors and even beginners to get the feel of the real gun without having to worry about did I accidentally put ammo in there and do a negligent or accidental discharge.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and it's even if you've got someone who's never shot before, that's a really good option because, I mean, if you think about it, the first time you were ever handed a firearm, there is so much that you're trying to digest in those first couple seconds that you will forget stuff, you know, to where it's like, you know, okay, I've got this gun in my hand. I remember that my finger's out of the trigger, but you turn towards someone to ask them a question, you know,
Correct.
and not that the instructor should be on top of somebody real quick with that. But yeah, with those, you know, I've talked to instructors that have like, yep, I've been on the wrong side of a muzzle way too many times. And that is one of the things that if I was ever going to be an instructor, because there's absolutely no way a round's going to get in there, you know?
Right.
So yeah,
And,
you're right. It's definitely good.
and you could put it in your holster. I mean, if you had a Glock 17 holster, you could do that. Then now I want to make clear that they make Glock 17, 19s, or Glock-like. I'll say that Glock-like devices. They make the ones that look like the 320 series from SIG, and they also have M&Ps. I believe M&P 2.0 family of stuff that they have.
They do, and then they also make a generic sized like I think it's subcompact, so it's like pocket. They call it the pocket pistol, so it's pretty close to a Glock 43 or an M&P Shield. It's a single stacked, real small, but it doesn't distinctly model any specific make of firearm that's out there. So that one's not going to necessarily have, oh, well, this works in this holster. You might find one that does, but it's not, you know, a guarantee. Where this one, and they're going to fit in most Glock 17 holsters. You might run into an issue every now and again if you have a holster that has a hood on it, you know, trying to get the hood or the loop up over it, you know. But by and large, I mean, your standard, you know,
the hardware that you have will work on it. Yeah. So just to recap, because I know a lot of folks, again, that's a question, and it's a great question people ask, like, what do we use to train with laser? Because they see that you can use Laser X or Laser Classic on a laptop or a smartphone if there's Laser X. Going to recap again, the first step is if you're going to dry fire with laser, you'll want something like a laser cartridge. And this is what you can use with your own firearm. This is nothing fancy. It's basically a cartridge with batteries in it that emits that red laser. And you have the challenge is you have to rack it every single time, because unless you have a double action or second strike capability, once you put it in there, and you have a lot of common striker fired weapons this day, you'll have to rack it to load the striker again. So that would be like I would say phase one. If someone really said, hey, what's the lowest cost of entry to do that? I'd say a laser cartridge. The only thing more basic than that would be dry firing and shooting a light switch and doing dime drills. The next one was something like LTP, laser training pistol. This one looks like an actual firearm still. Looks like a firearm still, and it does have a magazine that can drop. It has the resetting trigger, so you don't have to rack the slide every single time. And what they're going to do is when this goes into production, they're actually looking at making a quick interchangeable slide, so that once you want to up your training from a visible laser, like Sam was saying, so you're not riding the laser, you can switch it out to an infrared laser. and you will just use it with one of our infrared cameras, and you will get you'll get quite a bit of training in there, because now you've actually upped your training to a case where you're having to depend on your sights.
Right.
The next one would be, I'd say, almost like a hybrid, the Dryfire gun mag. It's a smart mag that goes with your actual firearm. So now you're getting the benefit of not, again, this is not your real gun, so you don't have the same trigger feel. This one, it gives you the ability to use your kit that you have and use the trigger that you have on your gun. And that's a Dryfire gun mag. I'll put that here. And I think probably the one that everyone is familiar with, and we don't want to forget about it, is SIRT. The SIRT pistols, I'd say, is almost essentially the de facto kind of go-to training pistol that everybody goes for.
Right.
And it serves, I think, with all these things, it'll serve one of these things will serve the drill or the training that you're trying to do, and serve the purpose you're trying to accomplish with your training objectives. So those are things I just want to throw out there. Any questions? What do you think, Sam? Do you think we covered kind of the sphere or the area of questions that we get asked the most when it comes to what do I train with?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and if you still have questions, after, you kind of see these different options. One, it lets you know that there's a lot of options out there. You can email us or call us, because sometimes it's a matter of, right, but in my particular case, well, that's fine. That's understandable. Everybody has that particular case. And so I'm happy to sit down and talk with people and kind of figure out, hey, what is going to best suit you? We're more than happy to do that, and because we want you to be able to train in a way you're comfortable with, but also what meets, your budget, your training goals, those types of things. So you have a variety of different things you can go to. And if you still have questions after kind of seeing some of that stuff, by all means, let us know. I mean, in that way we can kind of help direct you even further.
And that's why when people ask us, what do you recommend? We actually recommend what you're going to need when you train. So we'll usually ask you, what are you planning to do? Because the last thing we want to have happen is, well, I can't afford a SIRT pistol, or I can't afford some of these things, and you never train. We don't want the hardware to become a barrier to entry. In fact, I wouldn't even want the software to be the barrier to entry. If you're saying I have a firearm, let's say, like I was talking about Maj and the Black Guns Matter organization that he has, and the solutionaries that are going out there into the inner cities, getting people trained and familiar with guns in a safe and healthy way. I think it's important that at minimum, Dryfire, even without our software, you need to get that in there, because in the military, Dryfire was a critical component of our, our marksmanship or pistol craft.
Right. Yeah. I mean, one of the most dangerous things you could do is, have a firearm and not know how to use it. That is, I mean, that's, just
throwing it in your drawer, thinking you're safe now. I always say, box of ammo and the gun in your drawer, you might be actually you might be unsafe compared to without one, because now you might end up injuring yourself or shooting a loved one when you're actually trying to defend them in a stressful situation, because things go out the window when stress comes in the door.
Right. And I mean, and it's important to remember that, compromise is one of the biggest dangers that's out there, is the minute you're willing to start compromising on things. So I'm okay to have this gun, but I don't really need to train with it. That's scary. That's some, or I'll probably never ever need to use it. Well, you may not, but what happens when you do? Right. That's when it gets scary, because you've made that compromise for so long that in the moment you actually need it, it's not going to do a whole lot of good for you, or actually make things worse.
And even from that perspective, if you're not using it for defense, let's say you're going to go out and shoot for fun on the range, with ammo and gas being that expensive, I think you want to make sure when you're shooting targets, you're actually not trying to zero in still or hit your target. You've worked out your fundamentals, your trigger press to the rear, the sight picture sight alignment, so that when you're out on the range blasting away at steel or paper targets, you're getting the most out of it. You're not trying to work the fundamentals out. So hopefully it cuts both ways. It's good for self-defense, knowing how to do it when it's time to use it. Heaven forbid you do have to use it. And when you're going out there for fun on the range, it kind of helps save on a few things.
Yeah, it turns expenditure of ammo into effective expenditure of ammo.
Well, I'm gonna jump and change. So we showed hardware, Sam. I'm gonna show an example of something in LASR X. I think we just a few more minutes. I'll show it here. I'm gonna jump to laser. I'm I'm going to jump to LaserX. And there's a question that came in earlier. It came in during the week, but it's actually, how does LaserX identify targets? I mean, a lot of folks, I think people ask you, don't they, like, what type of targets do I use with laser?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we get that a lot. I mean, and that's a valid question, because a lot of software out there, they do want you to have either certain targets or, just different things. It's a pretty normal question that we see. And the good thing about our software is that it works virtually with pretty much any target. I'm not going to tell you you have to get a certain target to use our software. I've literally used a scuff on the wall as a target, and it works. So, but this tool that we have that finds targets, you can go one of two ways. You can let the software try to allocate those targets for you, or you can manually allocate those targets within the software.
All right. And I'll show them how they do it, because when you first log in, so a lot of folks might be familiar with this, so they might already have clicked do not show again, they go right past it. But when you first go into the software application, you'll see the screen. This is usually its first view. And sometimes you'll have, if you're on the iPhone, you'll have to flip the camera around to make sure you're using the right one and it's not looking at yourself. I'm going to turn down some of the glare here. Hopefully we'll turn out some of the lights. When you first go in, if you have targets hanging on the wall, and you're going to see we have some targets here, hit done. And we have machine learning. Let me clear this out. Machine learning that tries to identify the targets. So the program's pretty aggressive, that if you have some common shapes like circles, squares, those would be like plates on the wall, pictures on the wall, it's going to try to identify them. And you don't have to have any type of special target or code you put in here. Give it a few seconds and the computer will identify those targets for you using machine learning. And let's see what it does here. It's always interesting to see what the computer does.
Yeah. And one thing to note on this machine learning, or this finding targets feature within the software, it's important to note that this is not a foolproof. So if you sign into the software and you're going, yeah, it's not finding my targets, your stuff's broken. It's not that the software is broken. It's just that there's not enough distinction between the target and what's behind it for the software to be over what it thinks is a certain percentage sure that that's what a target's going to be.
Right. So I think, for example, it picked up this command strip. I'm going to move this out of the way. I have a command strip on my whiteboard here in the office. It picked it up and thought it was a target. It tends to be a bit more aggressive than not. So you basically delete that out. You can wipe those out. But you can see, without me having drawn a target on the wall, it looked at the IPSC IDPA target and identified it as let's use that as a rectangle. And it even put a backdrop. The dot torture. I mean, Sam, this is a fairly common target. I think folks use the dot torture drill. It did it on its own. I love that drill. Yeah, it's torture for it's torture for me. But it does see it even picked up the circles and put backdrops around them. So again, the question is, what do you need to do with your targets? Actually, you just hang them on the wall and let the computer. You can let the computer do it, and it'll find the targets. And we'll just do it one more time, and then I'll show you how you can manually do it. Then I'll show you the plugins will help you out there. So then again, see, it picked up the command strip again. I'll just delete that out of the way. It picked up like a picture my daughter drew on the whiteboard, and you have it, and you would just basically go into the shooting mode. And now, let me see if it works. I'm going to do. Of course, it'll work, but let me do that. I'm going to put this aside.
Yep. And the more targets you have up there, you're going to see, the longer it's going to take to lock and calibrate. It's just got a little bit more work to do.
Right.
So
we're in calibrating mode, and you can see a little overexposure, but let's do this. I'm going to hit start. So it works just fine. And that's just letting the machine hang your targets on the wall, paper plates, squares, paper, and it identifies it. Now, what I did want to show is you still have the ability, we'll go back in the setup, you have the ability to, let's say you don't want to pick all this stuff out. You can actually come in here and draw the rectangle around the target. You could do that. And that's something that the machine does for you automatically, or you can arbitrarily do it. So that, let's say you don't want to do the dot torture drill. You can go ahead and do that, do the backdrops behind it, and you're basically there again like you had before. And
yeah. And with the backdrops, just because you briefly had mentioned them, and we do get an occasional question about that. I just talked to someone the other day about it, and their question was, well, why would I use a backdrop?
And
so,
go for it.
Well, there's multiple reasons why you would do that.
Miss.
And they wonder how it functions even. So what the backdrop does is much like in baseball, and we probably have talked about this before, but much like in baseball, if the catcher misses the ball and that ball's thrown hard enough, it's going to hit the backstop of the ball field. So it's not going to roll off into no man's land. And so the backdrop is going to catch anything outside of the target zone that's within that backdrop area. So Ben's was shooting way outside of it. It's not going to register that, but it will let you know if there's a miss. So if you need to do a makeup shot, you're gonna know audibly right then and there that, hey, I need to take another shot because I missed.
Right.
The other thing it's going to keep you from doing is inadvertently cheating. So if you're coming and taking first shot off the draw, and you pull that trigger, if by any chance that shot was taken just below, like in that, you can't drag it up into the target zone, and then because there'll be a split, a certain amount of time that laser's on, and if in that time that shot is getting drug up onto the target without the backdrop zone there, you're going to see it as a hit. And then you're thinking, man, I'm really quick and picking up speed. When in reality, you're actually, that bullet would have hit outside of that target, and you just happen to be dragging it in. So a live round would not have made impact. Right. And so those backdrop zones keep that from happening.
And those are always good to have, because if you're a distance away, at least you get some audio feedback, as opposed to, like I said, you can discern between a near miss and a complete far miss, like you're not even on the target. So it gives you an idea and gives you some feedback. And as part of the results, you'll see it here. You can see your misses as well. What I'll do, Sam, I'm going to show them one more thing. We were talking about it earlier. It's the templates, target templates. So if you notice, if you don't have target templates, you would only see these things, these number of targets. You'd only see the basic targets here. If you purchase the target templates plugin, it allows you to enable scoring. So one, you can now score certain zones. But for example, I like to say, if I have an IPSC metric target, instead of having to draw squares within squares, you can actually now just draw the outline of the target and line it up, and it will score it for you. You can have the precision edit and the edit scoring here. So now if you're doing competition, you can actually up your training by that manner, in that way.
And one thing, just because maybe it glitched and I just didn't see it on my end, but when you went to click on that drop down menu, where it says IPSC metric right now, when you click on that, so it's going to show a list. Right now, I can't see it on Ben's screen that there's a drop-down list, but there is, in fact, a drop-down list. And you will notice if you have that scoring turned on, that list is quite a bit longer than if you don't have that feature turned on. And you'll see things like IPSC and more of those zoned-out targets.
Interesting. I didn't realize, good catch, Jim. I didn't realize it doesn't show up there, so that's a good catch on that one. I just noticed that too. So, okay. Good point. Let me see if it shows up now. No, it doesn't. I guess it doesn't allow you to see the drop-down menus.
Sure.
One thing. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, since we had just talked about auto targeting, and then now we're talking about target templates, it's important to remember that right now, like if Ben had IPSC targets, right, and then he tried to do an auto targeting, it's looking at basic stuff. It's not gonna like put an IPSC target
on the wall, right,
into play. It's going to do basic shapes. So if you want to do a more like this IPSC metric target, you want that, then you need to go ahead and just manually draw that target in there.
Right. And that's why for the more complex targets and shapes, those templates are in there. One of the things we added, Sam, and it's the one we talked about earlier, the police targets, so the BT5 targets that they have, some departments are training with it. So we actually have it in here now, so that if you want to do the chest zone and the headshots, chest zone and head zone, you can actually do that. And when you go shooting, based on how you have those zones scored, because now you can do scores or penalties. If you take 3 shots to the chest and 1 to the head, it'll penalize you. You can do that as well. So it behaves the same way. And so you can actually see those. So that's just three different ways of doing targeting. Wanted to point out, you don't want to do anything, you can let the computer do it by finding targets automatically. It's aggressive, but then it'll find a lot of things, and you might have to clean it up a bit. You can then drag and drop the basic shapes around the targets, or if you have a specific type of target that we have a template for, you can do target templates as well, and it gets you going a lot faster as opposed to having to draw every single one of these circles on dot torture.
Yep.
So anyway, I think that's. Let me go back to the camera, and I think folks are probably ready to go to dinner. I know it's the end of the day. We changed our time here, but I think that's basically what we're looking at. We just wanted to give people a refresher. We haven't been on it for a while, and wanted to make sure that, one, we didn't forget about you. You didn't feel like we forgot about you, but two, we actually gave you some heads up as to what we saw at the NRA convention. It wasn't just all protesters, contrary to what people are trying to push you on the news. It was well behaved, and people had a great time. So I just want to make sure you knew that. I'm going to bring Kathy back on here. She's been sitting there looking at us. She looks excited because we were talking about it, but she was giving us cues there as well. But any questions or concerns, Sam? Anything else we need to bring up, or you think we're good for the week?
No, I think it's good. I think we've kind of opened a fire hydrant, to give some people time to finish.
Oh, good deal. So I mean, if anything, again, we looked at different items to train with. So if they want to go back, they can always replay it. But until then, I guess we'll probably do this again next week, maybe a different time. We're still trying to find out what's a good time slot for it. But until then, I guess we want to remind you that we are actually on social media channels. I think we have we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Thanks, Kathy. Appreciate that. We're on those channels as LASR app. But if you go to Truth Social, we are LASR, LASR. And if you need to give us a call at the office or email us, it's support@laserapp.com. That's our email address, and we'll pick those questions up. Or if you give us a call at the office, that number is 402-965-1778. I didn't put it up there because I didn't want to take the call. No, I didn't have a queue set up for it, but those are the ways to get a hold of us. If you have any questions or concerns, we'll be happy to help you out. But until then, until next time, we tell people, train smart, train safe, and train often. Okay, sorry about that. Threw you under the bus there. All right, guys, take care, and we'll see you again next week.